A helicopter and a light plane collide over Philadelphia, killing Senator John Heinz and 6 others.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. Pennsylvania Senator John Heinz and a half-dozen others, including 2 children on the ground, were killed today when a light plane carrying the senator collided with a helicopter. Heinz, from the famous food company family, was a man who had it all, but he never took it for granted. NBC's Andrea Mitchell on the senator and this tragic accident. Andrea?
Tom, the Senate has lost one of its best and brightest. A senator who came from great privilege, but devoted himself to protecting the common man. The crash occurred outside of Philadelphia. Instruments on the senator's private plane indicated the landing gear had jammed. A helicopter went up to check. The 2 aircraft collided, exploded, and landed in a suburban schoolyard.
First, I look up and I see a spark in the air, and then it sounds like... and then pieces fell everywhere.
Heinz was heading to Philadelphia for a hearing tomorrow on Medicare fraud. Earlier this week, he talked to us about the scam.
When you know that Medicare is paying something like $1,100 for this $28 mattress pad, that's a 4,000% markup. I don't think you have to be any kind of genius to realize that Medicare is being ripped off to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Helping the elderly was one of his passions. Another was the environment. He traveled to the Amazon to learn firsthand about damage to the rainforest. As the second-ranking Republican on the Banking Committee, Heinz could challenge the most expert witnesses with his wide-ranging knowledge and his healthy sense of outrage.
It is high time that Congress declares savings and loan crook public enemy #1.
He was a public-spirited citizen who elevated the quality of public service in this country.
Heinz was also a gentle man and a warm friend.
I just congratulated the senator on the birth of his grandchild.
I do very much thank the distinguished senator from Pennsylvania.
An accomplished athlete, Heinz was known to friends as Jack. He was devoted to his family, with whom he loved fishing and exploring the waters off Nantucket Island. He could have lived a life of great leisure. Instead, he gave himself to public service. For that, in the halls of Congress and around the country, people are mourning a man who still had much to give and died too young. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
As Andrea reported, one of Senator Heinz's passions was the environment, the depletion of the protective ozone layer, and ironically, on the day of his death, the Environmental Protection Agency is warning the ozone layer is disappearing 2 or 3 times faster than previously believed. NBC's Robert Hager tonight.
EPA said the latest information about the depletion of atmospheric ozone over the U.S. comes from satellite observations, and said that depletion is much more dramatic than previously expected. As a result, the agency revised its estimate of health consequences to an estimated 12 million additional cases of skin cancer in the U.S. over the next 50 years, and 200,000 deaths. Ozone depletion may also be harmful to crops and to tiny organisms in the sea, which are the foundation of the food chain. The ozone layer begins about 6 miles up, but chlorofluorocarbon fumes, CFCs, from sprays, refrigerants, and solvents drift up and react chemically to deplete the ozone. That, in turn, permits ultraviolet rays from the sun to penetrate, which causes skin cancer. Scientists first discovered a hole in the ozone developing each October over the Antarctic. Then they discovered thinning near the North Pole. 3 years ago, they found first evidence of thinning over the U.S. And today, EPA said the newest observations show that 4 to 5% has already disappeared, and in another 60 years, 10 to 12% could be gone. The University of California, Irvine's Sherwood Rowland, who first forecast ozone depletion.
And if we're already at 5% ozone loss, then we have to worry a lot about what's going to happen in the next 20 years.
At a 1987 conference, most nations agreed to begin phasing out use of all chlorofluorocarbons.
White House officials have been concerned that forcing industries to race to find substitutes for CFCs could be costly and harm the economy. But today, some EPA officials were saying the new data indicates the CFC phase-out may actually need to be accelerated before it's too late. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
And the operators of 850 American coal mines tonight are facing $5 million in fines for tampering with coal dust samples. They're used to determine the risk of black lung disease for miners. The Labor Department leveled these fines after a lengthy investigation turned up tampering in half the nation's coal mines. When Nightly News continues in a moment, more American ground troops coming home, but the warplanes will be continuing their patrols. And on Daily Difference tonight, crime and punishment. San Diego police under fire and firing back. But are they too quick on the trigger?
A few small towns in western Pennsylvania have produced more football legends than any other place. Dan Marino, Johnny Unitas, George Blanda. What is it about these towns that gives birth to such greatness? The very things that drive us at Ford. When leadership is in your blood, you'll push yourself to even greater heights. In fact, starting right now, you'll be seeing more new models and exciting innovations from Ford than you've seen in years. Ford Motor Company.
The best plant food? Miracle Grow, without a doubt.
Miracle Grow really produces.
Miracle Grow makes everything grow bigger and better. I can't promise that Miracle Grow will earn you a world's record, but I can promise you'll get more flowers, more vegetables with Stern's Miracle Grow.
Look, Daddy, it's a horsey.
No, sweetie, it's a rooster.
Look, it's a monkey.
No, that's a cow.
It's a Walkman.
Ah, that's my girl. When it's the personal stereo that lets you hear the music in a whole new way, it's a Sony.
Saddam Hussein has yet to respond to those strict United Nations terms for a permanent ceasefire. There is no ceasefire in sight for Iraq's rebel Kurds and Shiites. They're being decimated tonight, and that is a problem for the occupying American forces. NBC's Fred Francis at the Pentagon.
Even if Iraq signs the tough UN peace mandate, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said today that U.S. warplanes will continue to patrol the skies over Iraq long after U.S. troops leave. Powell told reporters Iraq's official capitulation will mean that 100,000 occupying U.S. soldiers could leave Iraq in a few weeks. But Powell indicated that U.S. combat air patrols over all of Iraq would have to continue indefinitely to ensure Iraq's compliance with the peace agreement. Powell did not say what would happen to the more than 25,000 Iraqi Shiite refugees under U.S. care and protection in the occupied zone once the peace plan was accepted. U.S. soldiers feed and shelter the refugees, and remarkably, U.S. soldiers are still taking Iraqi prisoners 5 weeks after the war. Yesterday, 1,200 new Iraqi prisoners were processed. In the Kurdish north, the killing has just begun.
We're unable to estimate the number of casualties, but there's no question that the government retribution against the insurgents has been violent.
And that crisis in the mountains of Kurdistan is screaming for world attention, as Iraqi Kurds are trying to get into Turkey and Iran. As many as 1 million Kurds are fleeing from the rubble of their brief rebellion, fleeing from wholesale Iraqi government retribution. The Kurds have no food, clothing, or shelter. The Turkish government is refusing safe haven to most until the international community promises to foot the bill. The Iranian government says the Kurds are welcome, but has no means to care for them.
This week, many administration officials are privately questioning the policy that may now cost the lives of tens of thousands of Kurds. One said, "We messed this one up big time. It has tarnished our victory." Fred Francis, NBC News, the Pentagon.
During the Gulf War, Japan's Prime Minister Kaifu was a man in the middle. The Allies expected him to pony up Japan's share of the war cost, but his own people had a different idea. Kaifu is meeting President Bush in California tonight, and NBC's John Cochran is there with him. John?
Tom, Prime Minister Kaifu got himself in big political trouble back home when he insisted that Japan help pay for the war against Saddam Hussein. Today, President Bush gave him a big thank you.
As Bush and Kaifu met, there were noisy reminders of the Gulf War and its aftermath. Demonstrators, many of Kurdish descent, protested President Bush's refusal to finish off Saddam Hussein, or at least to provide more support for the Kurdish rebels. Despite such criticism, Bush is riding high in the polls, a popular war leader. But the war damaged Kaifu's popularity among many Japanese who thought he was too generous when he pledged $13 billion to the Allied campaign against Saddam. Despite that contribution, many Americans were not impressed. and still want trade concessions from Japan.
The Bush administration treats Japan as if it were an ally, and this was 20 years ago. It does not treat Japan like the tough economic competitor it is.
The nastiest incident occurred in Tokyo last month when American rice farmers tried to protest Japan's ban on rice imports. Japanese police threatened to arrest them for bringing American rice into the country. The U.S. also wants Japan to ease barriers to other imports, like computer chips and wood pulp. And Detroit wants fewer car imports from Japan.
Japanese trade imbalance with the United States has been declining, and this trend will continue.
President Bush warned Kai-Fu that Congress may insist on more concessions, but it was a friendly warning to a leader who came up with big bucks for the war against Saddam. Tom?
Thank you, John. On Wall Street today, it was take the money and run. The market down slightly as profit takers wiped out early gains. Trading today was heavy.
Smells good.
Like a Carolina pine forest. That's Lysol Pine Action. I cleaned this morning. It disinfects and works fast. But the scent lasts for hours.
It's nice, but how'd they get a pine forest in there?
Lysol Pine Action. The clean of pine every time.
It's gonna taste chalky. But the flavor... That didn't taste like Phillips. Sold.
Oh, what people do to clean tough stains under the rim. Because for some bowl cleaners, that's a real stretch. Try a different angle. The angle neck of Lysol Toilet Bowl Cleaner. It easily goes under the rim and wipes out stains and germs. Don't get bent out of shape. Get Lysol Toilet Bowl Cleaner, the heavyweight with a powerful angle on cleaning.
Sure, I care about this yard, but I care about my family even more. That's why I only trust Ortho products. If I'm having trouble with the bugs, or there are weeds I need to get rid of, there's always an Ortho product to do the job perfectly. But best of all, Ortho products are so carefully made. They leave the yard looking beautiful, and us feeling comfortable. You're definitely better off with Ortho.
Our daily difference tonight, crime and punishment. The war on crime, like any war, often claims innocent lives. Sometimes they're cops, but when cops feel that they must kill or be killed, the results can be tragic. In San Diego, this is a deadly reality. NBC's Bob Herbert tonight.
San Diego, 1985. Another cop is killed, and his buddies grieve. San Diego in the mid-1980s was saddled with a terrible distinction. Its police officers were being killed at a rate higher than any other city in America.
When there's hesitation on your part, just like a soldier in combat, you hesitate, you die.
Put down, please, don't move, don't move! Since then, any such hesitation has vanished.
A lot of them thought, well, now, I'm not going to take the chances that some of my buddies took and wind up dead.
Now, San Diego cops have acquired a new distinction. Over the past 5 years, they have killed civilians at a rate higher than any other police force in the country. Some victims were unarmed and had committed no crime. One was John Kelly, a 31-year-old Englishman with a fierce reputation as a karate expert. Kelly had taken his children in a custody dispute with his wife, and she called police.
It's still a shock to me. I phoned up the police for help. And the next minute, I hear from the police that they had shot and killed my husband.
Kelly, unarmed, was shot 5 times as he sat in his car in a Denny's parking lot. The plainclothes detective who shot him said he thought Kelly was reaching for a gun.
He was scared to death that this fellow, John Kelly, was going to kill him.
These people witnessed the shooting. Did you ever hear the police officer identify himself as a police officer?
No. He said halt and get out to the person in the car, and he was firing the gun at the same time.
The controversial shootings are not limited to the San Diego City Police. Last May, on this spot, a San Diego County Sheriff's deputy shot and killed a 21-year-old man named Jeffrey Bray. Bray, driving a red pickup, was followed by two deputies who were looking for a stolen truck. They were following the wrong truck. Bray stopped in the parking lot to talk to a friend. He backed up a few feet and struck the sheriff's vehicle, which had pulled up behind him. Moments later, Bray was shot dead.
Our son was killed, and he was shot, and I feel like he was murdered.
Jeffrey Bray was not guilty of any crime, is that correct?
No, not to my knowledge, no.
And he was not armed?
No, he was not armed.
No cop has been prosecuted in San Diego County for any of the 77 civilian killings since 1984. Many of the shootings were controversial, but District Attorney Ed Miller ruled that every one was justified because the officer believed his life was in danger.
It doesn't mean that what he did wasn't wrong. It means he is not criminally liable.
The real devil being Ed Miller. That's where the problem is.
The DA's investigations provoked outrage.
They've been a sham. I think they've been a total whitewash.
The public outcry has forced the police department to seek alternatives to deadly force. Cops are getting more training in the use of police dogs and non-deadly weapons. It's too early to tell if this will work, but it's an acknowledgement of the potential for tragedy in every confrontation between the public and the police.
What are you doing? Pull the gun out. Fine anyway. Son, you almost got killed. I almost shot you.
Bob Herbert, NBC News, San Diego.
Tomorrow night, Friday follow-up. A man who didn't go to school, any school, until he was good and ready. Age 32. Now, just 10 years later, he has a Ph.D.
Caprice is a new benchmark. A high-quality, performance-oriented, full-size sedan. Look at the attention to detail. The perfect fit.
The body is practically invincible with its extensive use of two-sided galvanized steel. And for all that, it now comes with a little 24-karat gold.
Chevrolet Caprice Classic LTZ is Motor Trend Car of the Year.
It's the kind of car an owner will brag about to friends.
And now it's easy to win with a heartbeat.
Did you know the cost of 2 business calls from these San Diego pet stores to Denver may surprise you?
Of course they're easy to beat.
With AT&T Long Distance, your small business can get the quality you trust at extremely competitive prices.
They really do make perfect pets.
Even though the other company would like you to believe, they always save you lots of money.
That's my big savings? That's it.
Not exactly the catch of the day.
Competitive price, another AT&T advantage.
It feels to me always like someone's banging on my knuckles with a hammer. It's really uncomfortable.
Today, it isn't aspirin, it's Advil for minor arthritis pain.
Advil just really helps with the pain. It makes it go away. The Advil caused me no upset stomach.
Over 100 million people have tried Advil for many types of pain.
That means to me it must work, and it also means it must be safe, and those are 2 things that I'm interested in.
Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Here's one of the best values I've seen for a lawn tractor. A Craftsman 2 12.5 horsepower tractor with 5 speeds, a 38-inch cut, and a 2-year warranty. Right now, you save $250. Only at Sears.
Discover Royal Caribbean's Caribbean. 3 to 10 night cruises to the Bahamas, Barbados, and more for less on the grand resorts of the 7 seas.
Since that police beating of a black motorist 1 month ago, Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates, of course, has been under pressure to resign. Well, today, the Civilian Police Commission ordered Gates to take a 60-day leave of absence while the investigation continues. More tonight from NBC's Don Oliver.
Gates will not take the forced furlough without a fight.
I feel that I have been disgraced and defamed, and I think it is a tragedy. It will not heal the wounds of the city. Tell you positively is the members of the Los Angeles Police Department will go forward professionally.
The chief plans to go into Superior Court tomorrow with a legal challenge to the commission's decision. The 3 members who issued the ruling said it was not punitive and has no bearing on any charges which might later be filed against Chief Gates.
We believe that we need a period of time for calm, reflective action to ensure that we've taken the appropriate steps.
We are interrupting our regular programming so that we can bring you the voices of police officers
While this radio call-in program was on the air, Los Angeles police officers heard about their chief and began reacting.
The politicians have set the Rodney King incident and issue aside, and they're focusing on our chief of police.
This caller said his name was Gary, a detective with 23 years on the force.
I feel like literally sitting down and crying over this issue, that the city is just hurting us, that the department is hurting.
A caller named Dan said he's a supervisor with 10 years on the force and black.
This incident has been described as an aberration by our chief, and I really believe that.
But leaders of the black community and others who contend the beating of black motorist Rodney King was not an isolated incident welcome the Gates furlough.
We welcome anything that would get Darrell Gates out of the way.
The next step will be an investigation of the police department by a blue-ribbon citizens panel to determine if the King beating was the result of poor guidance from the chief. For NBC News, Los Angeles.
Here's a quick check of other news tonight. In the mountains of Northern California, water officials found the snowpack at 85% of normal following recent heavy precipitation. They're calling it the March miracle, but they say the impact on the drought still is uncertain. The shuttle Atlantis is ready for liftoff tomorrow morning at 9:18 Eastern Time. The main mission, the release of a 35,000-pound observatory. Two of the astronauts also will take a spacewalk. In the Soviet Union, the Russian parliament gave Boris Yeltsin sweeping new powers to rule that republic. And in the industrial city of Minsk, 30,000 people held a general strike calling on Mikhail Gorbachev to resign. Time now for commentary from John Chancellor. He's still looking at Iraq. John?
Tom, among the mysteries of the Bush administration's thoughts about Iraq is its fixation on the idea that Saddam Hussein will be overthrown by the end of this year. The White House would like to see the deed done by Saddam's own army, and if the army knocks him off, the reasoning goes, then maybe the United States and Iraq could start over with a clean slate. The president says, we do not have an argument with the leadership of Iraq. Our argument, he says, is with the brutality of Saddam Hussein and the orders he's given. The president's words raise a question. Who carried out the orders given by Saddam Hussein? The answer, of course, is the leadership of Iraq. Saddam doesn't do it all himself. Since he came to power in 1979, he has systematically murdered his political rivals in the leadership, but a group loyal to him has remained in the top ranks of the government, the military, and the Ba'ath political party. This is the gang that used poison gas against Iraqi citizens, that helped organize the invasion of Kuwait. It's the group which now supervises the butchery of Kurdish and Shiite men, women, and children. This is the leadership of Iraq with which the United States has no argument. The fact is, the men in Iraq who have survived the executioner's axe are Saddam Hussein's henchmen, his partners in crime. The president is correct when he calls Saddam the major villain, but the murderous toadies who do Saddam's bidding are part of the problem, not part of the solution. Tom?
Thank you, John. When we return, the long journey out of a deep cave.
Some people drive miles out of their way to buy what they think is the best dog or cat food. But the fact is, this is all you have to drive. Because you don't have to go further than your supermarket for high-quality nutrition. Just stop at the Purina One Pet Nutrition Center. You'll find a whole new line of Purina One brand dog and cat foods for every stage of your pet's life. To me, there's nothing better than Purina One.
Purina One, second to none. Now for your dog and cat.
Here we go. Now we're rolling. Time to get going. I'm gonna pack a little bag, throw in a couple things I can use. Wings or wheels or railroad steel. I just love the feel of these traveling shoes.
There's never been a better time or better travel values to go USA.
Our pride is showing all over the nation. Now is the time for celebration. Time to rediscover America. Time to rediscover America.
Rediscover America with special celebration events at Dodge, Jeep and Eagle, and Chrysler Plymouth dealers. We're making Made in America mean something again.
Time to rediscover America.
Look at those clouds, honey. See the ship?
I don't see a ship.
See the airplane?
What airplane? I see a handy cam.
When it changes the way you see the world, there's no doubt. It's a Sony.
Here's one of the best values I've seen for a lawn tractor. A Craftsman 2 12.5 horsepower tractor with 5 speeds, a 38-inch cut, and a 2-year warranty. Right now, you save $250. Only at Sears.
All this week, we've been watching the rescue of a cave explorer from deep within New Mexico, a woman who broke her leg during an expedition. The accident happened in one of the many caves near Carlsbad, and as NBC's Bob Dotson learned, it became a lesson in friendship and determination.
Is the whole feed ready?
Shadows chase shadows.
Okay, easy.
Now and then a whisper of sliding rope.
No. Dave, pull me some tension, too.
The anxious, uneven breathing of 60 people, lugging one of their own.
I got it.
Emily Mobley was at the bottom of the deepest cave this country has ever seen. In a cavern so big, there are explorers at the opposite end that don't even know the 4-day rescue took place.
Much better.
The darkness would have been total
Right side.
without her friends.
Looking good. Yeah, let her run a little bit faster. Keep her coming.
They tugged her to the top, an inch at a time.
Keep on going.
1.5 miles.
Yeah, I'm fine. You can keep moving,
In
lady.
places, they cushioned her weight with their own bodies and always kept a light for her to see above.
Real slow and easy, guys.
Emily showed her appreciation with a grin, lit from inside.
If I have to break my leg, I can't think of better people I'd rather be around.
On 3. 1.
The ordeal below did not build character, but it revealed it. What matters down there are energy, muscle, and will, qualities her friends have in abundance. Otherwise, she might not have survived.
Okay. Being taken care of now.
They are all expert cavers.
As long as they don't step on my leg, I'm fine.
So is Emily. She was mapping this new cavern when a loose rock started this test of friendship. Pals came from all around the country. A cry of need seems to carry further in darkness. Or perhaps we listen closer.
Am I excited? You bet I am.
Finally, the light above did not need batteries.
Cheers for everybody.
Emily's friends felt as old as thick mud. Nearly 100 hours in that pewter world.
We were real pleased to get her out alive, get her out in one piece. It was real special to all of us.
Deep within themselves, they had discovered the people they wanted to be. Bob Dotson, NBC News, Carlsbad, New Mexico.
That's Nightly News for this Thursday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
If you're in your home and a tornado warning is issued, a few things you should be aware of. Stay away from doors and windows. The safest place will be in your basement, under a sturdy table or a workbench. If that's not available, go to the core area of your home. That's a closet or a hallway in the central part of the home, and be sure to cover your head. Knowing what to do now could save your life later. And be sure to watch for more of my safety tips all throughout this tornado season.